Turbulence, lightning strikes, thunderstorms, and low clouds. Extreme weather can threaten any aircraft no matter what the size. And normally, airlines can forecast and plan for most types of weather-related turbulence, but there's one kind that's impossible to predict. It's invisible to radar, strikes fear in pilots, and can force passengers and crew to hold on for dear life.
Operating in the air, which is just like operating a boat on the water, it's just you can't see the water, which we operate in as air. The turbulence can come from the mountains, from weather events, from daytime heating. It's not usually pleasurable to the people in the back, but we try and manage it as much as we can.
High above the Earth is a current of cold air so powerful that pilots don't attempt to fly against it. The jet stream. At the edge of the jet stream, fast-moving air smashes into slower-moving air to create turbulence.
So up in the higher altitudes, the jet stream will be moving sometimes at 100 to 200 miles an hour. There's no moisture in it, so it's hard for us to detect the actual weather. And if we go from calm air into 120 to 30 mile an hour wind, it can upset the aircraft very quickly.
The jet stream is a leading factor in what's known as clear air turbulence.
Clear air turbulence is massive air that's moving very quickly in the opposite direction we are, and we can't see it.
You can't see it, you can't detect it, you can't forecast it. But at 30,000 feet in the air, you can feel it.
Planes can experience clear air turbulence that causes it to drop thousands of feet. So if you're at 35,000 feet, it can pitch you up into the 40,000 feet. It could pitch you down to 30,000 feet. That's about 10 times higher than any roller coaster can do that to you.
Fabrizio D'Amico is a former flight attendant. March 17, 2001 was Fabrizio's first day on the job. And that was the day that a routine flight from Toronto, Canada to Mazatlan, Mexico ran into a perfect storm of clear air turbulence.
As a former flight attendant, I have been through hundreds and hundreds of storms in the air. I've flown through every kind of weather. I've flown through snow, I've flown through thunderstorms, rainstorms, heavy wind. I have worked in all types of extreme weather, but this is the day that I'll never forget.
For the other crew, the flight day starts like any other, but it's a special day for Fabrizio.
I'm gonna start traveling the world and living this dream that I'd always had as a youngster to be a flight attendant. It was a very exciting day.
Most of the passengers on today's flight are tourists, looking to escape from a frigid Canadian winter to the warmth of sunny Mexico.
It was winter in Toronto, but once we got up in the air, it was clear blue skies.
As soon as the plane is in the air, Fabrizio assists where he can. It's the final step in his flight attendant training, a procedure known as line indoctrination.
Fall out on you, so it might start like this. You have to make sure it's like that.
Line indoctrination is a flight that you do after your 6 weeks of training, where you go on board, you're in a uniform, but you're not an operating crew member yet. You are there just to observe. I'd observed what the flight attendants had done for their safety. It helped with the service. We were flying smoothly. It was busy, but uneventful, clear skies, nothing out of the ordinary. We were about 3 hours into the flight. We were 38,000 feet when all of a sudden, this plane just drops.
At that moment, the flight path takes them through a subtropical jet stream and into a pocket of invisible clear air turbulence.
It was like being on a roller coaster, that initial first drop down. We were all thrown, and the seatbelt sign came on,
Seatbelts on, everyone, please.
and the captain said, "Flight attendants, take your seats."
Seatbelts on, everyone, please.
So the other flight attendant started to immediately try to secure the galley, and I went to assist her, and she immediately just shouted, "No, take your seat, strap yourself in."
Hey, buckle up.
So I did.
Fabrizio manages to get himself strapped in, but his fellow flight attendant still has to get the galley locked down.
Things are falling on the ground. Jugs of juice, pop cans had fallen on the floor. This was so violent that they almost become projectiles. And I could see her struggling. She was in front of me, and I kind of had my arms out. And then this plane drops again, and she went up. And, I had to grab onto her and pull her into my lap and hold onto her for a good 30 seconds because this plane was just shaking so violently. There was no warning from the captain that we were expecting any sort of air turbulence. It was so quick and so violent. For a moment, I was in shock. It was scary, it was jarring, it was violent.
Clear air turbulence hits without warning. Because the air is clear, there's no moisture for radar to detect. It's an invisible danger.
So clear air turbulence is probably the cause of most passenger injuries in our industry. Just due to the fact that things like thunderstorms and stuff like that, we know that there's going to be turbulence there. It's easy to spot, and we can give those things wide berths. With clear air turbulence being clear, we're sometimes unable to see it coming. And if people are standing or not wearing their seatbelts, and we can get into drafts that change our altitudes by thousands of feet in matters of seconds, that usually causes the majority of injuries in the industry.
The passengers and crew continue to violently rise and drop as the plane is buffeted by the forces of the unseen clear air turbulence.
And these drops were gut-wrenching. I could hear passengers screaming. I would imagine it was dropping a couple of 100 feet because it was violent.
Now, one violent drop causes the attendant to lose her grip and sends the duty-free cart wildly careening down the aisle out of control.
All of a sudden, I heard the other flight attendant shout at passengers to hold on to the cart. And I thought, hold on to the cart? This is not good. This could mean trouble.
When clear air turbulence hits, it hits hard. This happens when two bodies of air, such as wind shear and a jet stream, moving at extremely different speeds, collide. Today, with the introduction of tablet computers and flight decks, pilots now have real-time access to turbulence information and do their best to avoid areas of rough air. Although it can be sudden, turbulence poses very little risk to an aircraft, as planes are designed to withstand the stress of these conditions.
And I could see down the aisle, and I saw that the duty-free cart was in the middle of the aisle, while passengers were holding onto this cart that was shaking from side to side.
As long as it's loose, the runaway cart poses a serious threat.
They were able to get the cart up to the front of the cabin and secure themselves in. That's when I kind of snapped into what was happening, because up until then, it was so quick, I was in a bit of shock. There's no warning. We went from 0 to severe. It was just immediate.
The plane is rocked by wind currents on the edge of the jet stream as high-speed air collides with slow-moving, nearly still air. But 6 miles high above the Earth, the jet stream isn't the only threat.
So there's another type of turbulence that we call mountain waves. So as you're coming over the rocks, the high-speed winds that are up in the upper levels will go over top of the rocks. And as they come over the other side of the rocks, it'll actually roll off. And as we fly through them, we get turbulence. Think of it as going down a river in a raft. And as you get into the rapids, which are those high-moving waters over the rocks, much like the air is, then you get into turbulence, except they don't have a seatbelt sign like we do.
Turbulence hammers the plane, now from 2 different fronts, the jet stream and mountain waves.
Could hear the engines were working very hard, and the captain was trying to fly through this turbulence, but it wasn't helping.
For 30 stomach-churning minutes, violent turbulence holds the flight in its grip. It feels like the plane is going to break apart.
Passengers continued to scream because, again, the movements were so violent, and you could hear that there were passengers that were being sick at the back of the cabin.
For a moment, Fab thinks his first flight is also going to be his last.
So at one point, I looked up the aisle again, and you could see the cabin was flexing from the weather. The turbulence was making this plane bend. Even on descent into Mazatlan, this plane is shaking, it's dropping, it's shimmying from side to side. It was still very violent. There was never a moment where it stopped, and I just kept thinking, just land this damn plane, I'm gonna be sick.
Because it's invisible to radar, clear air turbulence is impossible to forecast. Pilots do their best to warn other flights of the unseen danger.
While we're flying, we're actually taking weather observations, and if we see turbulence like we talked about, or we experience clear air turbulence or any of those things, we make sure we pass it along to air traffic control, which will pass it along to other aircraft around us, and then other aircraft can either prepare or go around that weather.
Finally, the turbulence eases up just before the plane touches down.